Hey, good morning, Alyssa. This is your feedback you're asking for. I'd be happy to provide this anytime you have a question. All right, so it looks like you got dinged for your original setup. Your statements, it looks like you're having trouble with the parameters and the the hypothesis stating. So here's what we're looking for. We would let mu of d equal the mean difference of the dexterity scores in terms of pre and post. All right, I didn't write that all out, but hopefully you get the idea. And then I would say the null hypothesis is that the mean difference is 0. There is no difference between the pre and post scores. And our alternative is that the mean difference is more than 0, which means that our post scores will be higher than our pre scores. So you got dinged for stating your parameter correctly and stating the hypotheses correctly. It looks like you kind of mixed the two ideas together. Now this section is really good. You see the smiley face? You did really good on the, you got your 6 points for the conditions. Your mechanics are awesome. This is the correct t-score, this is the correct p-value, and this is the correct conclusion. You got dinged on the follow-up questions, and so let's go over those. The first follow-up question is interpret the p-value. So interpret the p-value is, so you said something about, let's see, there is a small chance your answer will be 3% given the rejected. So what we're looking for is, given that the null is true, given that there is no difference between the pre and post scores, the probability of obtaining our statistic or higher or worse is 3%. And so this is the wrong interpretation for a p-value. The second thing I'll say before I move on to the next page is that, well, no, this looks good. So like I said, this section looks great. We need to work on the hypothesis stating and the parameter stating. I did give you, let's see, it looks like I did give you half the points on the third question. So if I look, yeah, I gave you 2 points for this one. It says you could have made a typo and error because I rejected the null. That is true, but you got dinged 2 points because you didn't put it in context. You would have to say something like, there really is no difference between the two pre and post scores, but I think there is. I got a statistic far enough from 0 that I think that there really is a difference. Okay, and yeah, I didn't give you any points for number 4. So number 4 is, oh yeah, it's the supposed researchers replicate. They double their sample size. So if you double your sample size, your and it's not a confidence interval, your sampling distribution will be more narrow. And so what that would indicate is that your p-value will get smaller. So here's the original. This is n is equal to 12. And so here's the rejection zone. Okay? If you double the sample size, your distribution will become more narrow, like this. And notice that a same p-value is going to be smaller for the more narrow sampling distribution. So we're looking for, if you increase the sample size, you decrease the p-value. Okay, before moving on to question 2, I hope you recognize that I am offering a retake on Wednesday. So I think if you watch this video along with the other one on today, I think you'll do much better on Wednesday. And the questions are going to be very similar. So in question 2, you are correct to say it's a 2-sample C test, but notice that you're never defining the parameter, nor are you establishing the hypotheses. So in other words, we would have to say something about, there's 2 parameters on this. We would say P1 is, P2 is, and I think this is the French problem. Yeah, so P1 is going to be the proportion of people who survive from CPR. P2 will be the proportion of people who survive from the other saving device. And then our null hypothesis is going to look like this. We think that there is no difference, that P1 is equal to P2. And then alternative is we think that the second proportion is more than the first. We think that the one life-saving device is better than the other one. Okay, so you got dinged a few points for not stating the hypotheses nor the parameters. Now, once again, this is awesome. You're doing a really good job with identifying the correct test, with identifying the correct formula, and using your mechanics. This is fantastic. You're doing a really good job summarizing your turnout. You do have the correct p-value, and I think I dinged you on the follow-up question here. Yeah, you got 0 points on number 2, and so let's look at that. It says the researchers just performed a significance level. Okay, so they're going to lower the significance level. And let's see, you said 99% confidence interval would be the wider range. So I think we're usually we don't mix up a test with a confidence interval. Usually a solution will only be a test, or a solution will only be a confidence interval. So to go back and forth between the two is typically not what we do. For number 2, we would say something like, if I decrease the confidence level, I decrease my chance of a type 1 error. Okay, so the chance of a type 1 error is actually your alpha level. So if the null is true, let's assume the null is true, then there is a 5% chance that I will get a statistic far enough from the average where I actually reject it. So that's a type 1 error. And so if I reduce the alpha level to 1%, I'm reducing my chance for a type 1 error. Okay. Let's see. So if I reduce the alpha level, I'm actually going to reduce my power. Okay, so that's a disadvantage. So I reduce the chance of rejecting the null if it's not true. Let's see. If I reduce the alpha level, I actually will increase my chance of a type 2 error. So those are all things that we're looking for number 2. Let's see, I did give you the 4 points for the last question. So the researchers would like to replicate this, describe one change to increase the power, get a larger sample size. Perfect. Okay, so let's see, you missed 4 points here. And so I did go back through and I rechecked the score, and the score in the gradebook is what you got. I'm hoping that you take this feedback and look at the solutions that are provided with the video. And honestly, Alyssa, if you print off, or if you have maybe go to your book and have a 2-sample t-test and a 2-sample z-test as a model of how you write your solutions, I think that's what I would do. I hope this is helpful. Have a good day.